Howdy folks, Doc here with Last Best Tool, and Carlyle makes this exquisite little indexing pry bar. This is from Carlyle NAPA. This is the PBF 04 for a 4-inch, meaning if I push this one, you have to push both of these in. You get about a 4-inch handle on this incredibly stout, beefy prying end. In fact, it seems to me to be a little bit overkill given that you've only got 4 inches here, or maybe a 1-to-4 leverage, but it got me thinking. And in the past, I've done some work with some of the indexing pry bars, from large crescents to this tiny little, this is the 8-inch snap-on. However, the problem is this snap-on right now is $122. Actually more than that if you look on the Snap-on website. It is great. It's a single push button on this side. I'm guessing that this might be stronger. You have to push both these little buttons in. However, I had seen this end of it before. This was the only 4-inch indexing pry bar I could find. There might be others. It was a little over $30, like $32 from NAPA. However, Titan makes a very similar indexing mechanism on their 12-inch pry bar. This is about $20. Plus it has this kind of little bit skeletonized prying tip. Again, you have to push both of these in. But if you look, line them up the same here. If you look at the design, it is quite similar. In fact, it's hard to believe that it's really different on the inside. But I have done some videos where I have cut down some Titan tools. These are the same tool. I just cut it off, cut the handle off, and made my little round head micro ratchet here, and then just polished this end. I did the same with their bit driver, this flex, or this round head bit driver, and just ground one. Cut it off. You can see where I chose to cut it off. Right there. Turn that around there, right there, and then just made a nice little bump for a handle. However, I thought I'm going to cut this down, and I'm going to make a tiny indexing pry bar. Now the question is where? So if I line these two up on the indexing point, this is where it comes to. Basically the beginning of that T. There is no for all the way, you got to go all the way out past, in fact, if you look at that, past the 8-inch mark to get to any kind of a bump. And I'm obviously not going to do that. This is where I'm at right now, is at this point. I could go shorter, and in fact, that's what I'm going to do, just because I can. If I went longer, maybe I could make a 5-inch or a 6-inch pry bar, indexing pry bar. But I'm going to go ahead and make a little micro but beefy indexing pry bar. And if I don't like it, I'll go ahead and do another. So now the question is, if I'm going shorter, where do I go? How far down here do I go? Now, if you think about the leveraging, whatever this, on this side of the pivot, if it's equal on this side, you have basically a 1-to-1. So that's something to think about. I could go a little bit longer. Remember that T right in front of it is how long I already have with the Carlyle. So what if I cut it down by 1 inch, or maybe cut it in half? I think I'm going to go half because I can. So right here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure 1/2 from the indexing point to the indexing point to the end of the handle, and I'm going to make a 1/2-inch one. So I'm going to cut off this entire thing here. I might find a use for it, but that's where I'm at. So now I've got to go cut this down, and then I'll polish it up, and then I'll play around with it. I don't know if that's the best thing. Because it is straight, I could get a tube, like a little pipe that I could drop over it, and then have actually a indexing pry bar kit that allows me to adjust the length of the handle. But anyway, let's go ahead and cut this down and see what happens. Well, there it is. As you can see, I chickened out. I was going to make it smaller at that mark right there, but I decided that might be too short, and I did a kind of a cut down of a bunch of tools like years ago, making everything really short just to see, and found out a lot of stuff doesn't work. If you take a pair of pliers and cut them down to here, they don't work anymore. And cutting down handles on things, just making stubbies. So I thought I would first of all copy the Carlyle. Why? Because the Carlyle's expensive, and as far as I can tell, it's probably coming from the same factory, maybe. Very similar in the design here. I do like the form, the shape of this this Titan prying head a little bit better. I don't necessarily need all these artifacts around here, but this is pretty thick. That's more of a club. I guess that maybe that's what you need for a really short-handled one. I'll find out. But anyway, so I just cut this all the way down. You saw the video of that, and I'll try this. Now the next step is, I thought maybe I'd put like a shrink wrap handle on it or something. I might. Or here's some fuel line. I could heat this up and slide that on, maybe a section, or maybe just not worry about it because it's fairly smooth. You can see that. Not my best work, especially when I looked at the camera to see if I was actually videoing what I wanted and flew off my end here. Ground down the oxide, but it's Titan, so I don't know how long that's going to last anyway. But anyway, a lot less expensive, and you can make it whatever size you want. So I could make a whole series of, or a whole set of these from short to whatever the longest they've got. I like it. I like it. Anyway, there it is, the custom Titan Stubby full-size indexing pry bar, and the Carlyle. And with that, dock out.